Hey, Adam, thanks so much for joining me again on a well-designed business.
Thank you, Luann. I'm pleased to be here.
So this is exciting, Adam. It's funny because I think when we first set this podcast up, I thought that it was going to be our first time to really reconnect since I interviewed you the first time. I didn't even know what year it was. We'll link it in the show notes, but it was way back in the beginning. But then I just got to see you recently at Luann Live. You came in from Australia, and that was so much fun to be with you for the couple days there.
It was great, Luann. I had a great time. So worth
Y
it.
yeah, it
Mm.
was fun, it was fun, and I think that so many of us know you from Facebook and from the community and stuff, and I just noticed a lot of everybody was like, "You're Adam? Oh my god, the Adam from Australia?"
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, there was a lot of people there that I kind of like, Nicole and Claire Jefford and Sandra Funk and Nancy Gansicorp. Nancy!
Exactly, right? You've been with us in this community from the beginning. I mean, you just found this podcast somehow way back at in the beginning, and we've always stayed, internet connected, right?
That's it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great. Yeah, it was such a great experience to make that journey. I think it does a lot for your psyche in terms of, I was there to learn. I was there to meet people, but I was there to learn as well. And I think it was such a huge move forward for me just to give you that feedback. I got a lot out
Oh.
of it. Yeah,
Oh, I'm so glad to
yeah,
know that. I'm so glad to know that you got more than the confirmation of meeting the people that you knew on the internet were actually nice humans.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I
Oh,
think you
that's
don't
good.
know what you don't know. That was my aha moment. If I can give you one
Mhm.
quite a way after, but you just do not know what you're going to learn, and it could just be a nugget that someone gives you when when we had those round tables. It's kind of like, I didn't think of that. I
That's
didn't
right.
think of that at all, and it can be just tiny little things that I
Yes.
think can make a huge change. And I had a few of those at the conference.
I'm so glad to hear that. It's funny because I was talking with Kate O'Hara. Did you have a chance to meet Kate O'Hara while you were at the conference, I wonder?
I think I met everybody, but I'm kind of with Kate. I'm just trying to place it.
So long, auburn brunette type hair. She runs O'Hara Interiors, and it's a 35-year firm that her mother had started. And Kate is the CEO and the creative director now. And super freaking smart business lady. Like, that's all I can tell you. Like, crazy smart. And it was funny because after conference, her and I were talking couple days, a week or two later. And, listen, she runs a big team. This is like, 20, 30, 40, 50 employees. Like, I don't remember. I can't keep track because, the firm expands and contracts and all the things. But she's got a lot of balls in the air and as a managing partner of that business, right? And I said to her, Kate, I know you had a good time. I mean, I saw you, we interacted. I said, but did you did you learn something? Like, what was it for you? And she said very similarly. She told me the aha that she had, but she said, for me, when I come, it's looking for and being open to the thing that I just didn't know I didn't know. And that is like, you can say, "Oh, is Luann live for you if you're in business, brand new, and you don't know anything?" Well, yeah, because then it's a fire hose, and you're gonna learn 40 things. But for people like you and me and Kate that are seasoned and many years in business, like, I'm okay learning that one thing that makes something easier or more profitable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you can never sort of say, "Oh, well, I think I'm good with my business processes, and I think I'm good with this." And I'm not. I know I'm not going to learn anything new, so why should I go? But you don't. I was learning all sorts of stuff. I was learning from Cheryl Luckett, that fabulous designer
Oh,
who I adore. I love
I
her work.
know.
And she said, I said, how do you get these connections with builders, Cheryl? I said, and she is such an alluring person just to speak to. I said, there's
Yeah.
no wonder she's so successful and with her brand. But she said, I get on Instagram and I'll follow the builder, and then I'll say, gee, I love that project. It's this and that, and then the builder comes back to me, and then she said, and I end up having these conversations where we're kind of saying, can we meet up and talk about a specific project? I think your aesthetics right for these clients. And I thought, gosh, this woman's not just sort of sitting around waiting for the phone call
Waiting for
or
somebody to
sending
just, yeah.
emails and things like that. She's sort of going, she's doing a little bit of creative stalking and getting results. And it's just
She's
stuff
creating
like that,
relationships, right?
building
Starts by a relationship.
relationships,
Yep.
and it works for her. And
Hmm.
you just learn different strategies, and you cannot say, you can never turn up to an event like yours, Luann, and think, oh, I know these people, I know this stuff. I don't think I'm going to learn anything. Not true at all. It's about,
Right.
I think the things that you learn, you'll never even think they were on your agenda to actually be learning about. You just sort of peep that, having a room of however over 100 and something people, it's kind of like, how can you not learn bucket
Right.
loads from different people?
Right, right. It's funny because I also recently had a conversation with someone that was asking me if I thought that they were beyond the point that they would learn something in the class that Peter Lang teaches at Lou University. And it's a 3-hour intensive, and it's basically, you know how to do your online bookkeeping. You know how to do that. You know how to either do it or you know how to monitor your bookkeeper. But this is like, what happens when you run a report with your P&L and L and your balance statement and this, and how do you read your numbers and how do you make your numbers work for you for the next level? And the particular designer I was speaking to was saying that I'm sort of pretty good, like I can run my reports and this and that and the other thing. And I finally just said, I said, listen, I said, it's a $500 bill. Like, it's your call. If in 3 hours sitting with a CPA, you learn one thing that even makes you go back to your own CPA and question or explore, if that's worth it to you, do it. But if you know everything and you're not worried about it, then I don't know what to tell you. It's don't you're certainly not new, and you're certainly not without experience. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's going to definitely give you 10 takeaways. But my way of thinking, for $500, what do I not know what I don't know? You know what I mean? Like that's how I am,
Lou,
right?
if anything, I think it's beneficial if you've been around for years, because you go in there with this preset idea, and then you're understanding the nuances of what people are introducing to you as new
Good
ideas.
point.
Coming in, you can kind of be a little bit like, deer in the headlights. You sort of, everything's new, and half the time you can't really, well, I'm talking about me, I'm slow. It might take me a little bit longer than some people to absorb information, but you
Oh.
sometimes cannot absorb as much because it's all just there. It's
Mhm.
actually sometimes, I think, very, very important for seasoned designers or decorators to go in there with the experience, then go, oh, I can do that better. Oh my God, why didn't I think of this? So
That's right.
I think being tenured, it's all the more reason to come in and refresh and learn new stuff.
I love it.
That's
I love
my
it.
that's my perspective
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I always say. I'm like, I'm going to be there for 3.5 days too. And I got 40 years of business. If you think I'm going to be bored, you're out of your mind. Like, I'm not creating an event that I'm bored at. Like,
No.
I could go to yoga.
Mm.
I could go to the Bahamas. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, anyway. All right. So, that was a tangent I didn't expect, but it was fun to do that little bit of memory lane with you there. So, but today we're going to talk about what's funny is you explained to me how, when we first had our conversation, were full time in corporate, running your design firm.
2017, Lou.
I know. How is this possible, Adam? It's 2024. How
I
is
know.
this possible? Right? But, you were in a corporate position
Yeah.
and running your job, your design firm as a side hustle. And
Mm.
what you came back to me this past year is you said to me, I did it. I left the corporate and I went out and did the design as a full-time thing. And you said, but Lou, I'm back to the corporate with the design as a side hustle because I learned that I prefer it. So tell me about this. And I love that you came back to and you weren't afraid to pivot either time, but you keep striving for what makes you happy. So tell us about it.
Yeah, thanks. Well, yeah, that was interesting, Lou, because 2017 is the year I was on, as first time round. But it was all about that. And then, what, a year later, 2018, I decided to leave my corporate role, and I thought, no, I've got to really get out there. And I thought to myself, well, if I'm available, then it should all work out. But look, it was up and down, and the work would come in thick and fast, and then it would die off. And I found that I was strategizing a lot. I was doing all sorts of things on Facebook, wine and design shows, and I was doing tours and things like that. And I did a lot of stuff that got me out of my comfort zone. What I mean by tours is taking women around to showrooms, trade only showrooms. I did
Oh,
all of these things, and some of it worked, which was a good learning experience. I did get clients that way. But then we hit the COVID side of things, and I know some people flourished in COVID, but for me here, it didn't work out. People didn't really
mm,
want, me in a lot of the time to do these one-on-one consults, and it pushed out jobs. And I just found that I would get ahead financially, and then I'd have to suck some of that back out to survive over the next few months, especially during COVID.
okay.
And then time went on, Lou, and I kind of I actually got offered a position back where I was working, which was a different role. And also too, I wasn't. I was previously managing a team of people, and after years and years of that, I kind of was just. I think I'd had my time with managing people. So this role is sole contributor, account development. But I thought once I started to get that financial, that on the 15th of the month, Luann, that money came in, uh, I thought, okay, no, hang on. I was enjoying this around the time that I was first on the show. I was actually quite enjoying it because I could finish a project and there was zero angst on what have I got in the pipeline? What's next? Okay, what's happening in 3 to 6 months' time? I want to go traveling, and have I got enough money in the bank to be able to buffer that out and still be able to pay all the bills? And to me, in the end, I thought I only really, the thing I realize is a coach actually helped me to discover this, is that it was just a creative outlet that I needed in my life. I needed to express myself, but I didn't necessarily need the design to be the total be all and end all of my financial support. So I made a decision to go back to working, and I still have the business in the way that I did before, but I've structured things a lot differently now so that I can do these jobs without needing to be around as much as, say, I would have been in the past when I wasn't working full time.
Okay. So, a couple things I want to just dig into there. What I love is, it's like the aha of, okay, so when the job is done, this isn't a bad thing necessarily that there's not another job. It's like now I can take a break and now I can go on vacation, or now I can just get back to, bike riding after my regular day job every day. And when you didn't have the corporate job, of course you had what we all have, like the next job, I have to pay the bills, and blah, blah, blah. And it's almost like it's a version in my mind, Adam, of what happens if you've ever read The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. Have you ever read that
I
book?
haven't read it.
Okay, so
I haven't read
it's
it.
an interesting
No.
book. Yeah, so it's an interesting book because what happens is in The E-Myth, the woman is a baker and she loves to bake. She loves to bake. She loves to bake. Oh my God, she's the best baker. Everybody loves all her baking. She's got her grandma's recipes, blah, 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 blah. And, she becomes a baker for somebody else. And, she literally sees that all the people come in and want her pies and cakes and all the things, whatever it is. And she resents at some point that the bakery, I'm paraphrasing, I read the book, 10 years ago. The bakery is the one making the money on her, quote unquote, her delicious pies and cakes. And so she decides to go out and open her own business. And then what happens is it's not too long where she's not baking anymore. She has to hire somebody to do the baking because she's got to go out and build the business so that there's more people that want to buy the baking. And now all of a sudden, it's like I'm detached from the thing that was bringing me joy. And the point of the book is that you need the entrepreneur, you need the visionary, and you need the technician. And what I think is, yours isn't quite the same analogy, but it's like you were able to discover that when you're doing design without the pressure of it creating your lifestyle, you can enjoy it. Not that you don't do it profitably. It's not that you're not doing it and making a living, making your money from it. It's not that it's a gift and you're not like, I'm decorating and designing for free. But when it was the only thing you did, it sounds like it became, this isn't fun. I did. And that the discovery of what was satisfying was the creative outlet. And it's great if it made money too, but that was what was the satisfying part, it sounds like.
That's right. I love that. I'm going to pick that book up, Luann, because I think it does. It's pretty much hitting the nail on the head. Look, that's true, and you know what? It's some people do really well, as we know. You know, they've got things nailed down. They're working with builders, and there's a lot of people I know, and some of them they have less of the downtimes than I did, and I think it's that's a great thing. And if you can get into a relationship, whether it's your significant other, your husband's a builder, whatever, I don't know, but if you can build
Yeah.
up that pipeline so that you can do it full time, fabulous to you, that's great, and I admire anyone that can do that. But I just think there is a fair bit of hustle required, even to get a couple of jobs a year. I still have to hustle. I still have to reach out. I still have to remind people that we discussed that project. Even working full time, for me to even get the small amount of jobs that I do a year. Um,
Hmm.
but I think, yeah, it really it requires some level of hustle, and I think some people are not as interested in marketing as heavily, pretty consistently. And I'm thinking, well, if
Hmm.
you're not that interested in kind of having all of that time and energy to do that, then you may want to consider not having to make it your be all and end all. And I had a bit of
Right.
I had a bit of shame around that, Lou, just for a while,
Mm.
and I thought I've failed.
You
I've failed.
Oh, like
Why has
going
this not
back to
worked out?
corporate felt like a failure. Hmm.
Yeah, and but then I actually I started to think to myself, and it was actually, you probably know, I'm a bit of a coach junkie. I like to go and have people coach me and give me different perspectives. But I did have a coach recently. She said, "You're actually a smart businessman, Adam, because you were
Mm.
losing money and you weren't setting yourself up. I'm no spring chicken, Lou. I'm 50. I just turned 50 last week. I'm no spring chicken, and
Wow,
I've
you don't
got
look it.
goals, financial goals that I need to achieve, and I need to take care of myself. And at this point in time, I'd given it a good go. I'd given it 3.5 years, and it was too up and down for me. So as soon as I started
Mm.
to work again and just get a steady income, the phone wouldn't ring before, and then it started to ring. It's always the way, isn't it? I had this sort of
Right,
period
right,
like
right,
that, and
right.
then up like that. But I thought, no, this is fine for me. And what I had to kind of work out was, how do I run a project now, um, while I'm working? How can I actually get rid of some of the time that I'm spending on these projects? So what I started to do was engage other people to help me, other designers that were doing this full time, to help me with some of those hours on the job. And what I kind of thought was, well, I'm actually giving back. I'm giving some of this money back to other people that are kind of relying on it full time. Do you want to do 15
Yes.
hours on this project? And, this is the plan, and you're the project lead. You need to meet with the painter and da da da. A lot of what I do is decorative, Lou, so I'm not a lot of that building stress. But I'm working with a good friend of mine who's been a designer for 35 years. She's 61, and she's up and down with her design business too. She still loves it, but she takes 5% out of my 25% fee at the moment, which is my implementation of project fee. And that works out well for her. And I can eliminate, a lot of the bad demand, which for me is not having to rock up there at 7 o'clock in the morning and be there till 10 while we work through some problems. I'll hand it over to Jane, and she does that, and she just phones in and says, look, this is what we started out with. This was the problem, and this is the solution. So I think you've talked about this a lot on the show, Lou. It's about kind of, how do you be smart about, if you want to outsource stuff, how do you do it and be smart about it? And we touched on that at the conference too. Like, you don't have to be the be
Mm.
all and end all. And there are all sorts of creative ways that you can make different situations work.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. First of all, I just don't want to gloss over the fact that you had to process that it felt like a failure. Because, Adam, there's probably somebody out there listening that is just in the midst of making the decision, maybe to not do full-time design and maybe go back to a job, or has just done it. And I, 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 I just, I mean, I want to hear you say it's not a failure, right? Like, you don't feel like it's a failure now, or you process through that.
Absolutely, I've processed through it. And it's
Good.
just a moment in
Good.
time. And we
Yeah.
all have ebbs and flows in the business. And I realized that. And it was only recently I was at a design lunch. Not many men in these design lunches like Luann Live, I think, except for
I
Vinny,
know, right?
me and another couple of blokes.
That's it. You, Peter Lang, the Duke Renders guys, Rebel Woods. Not much more
Oh, the
than
Duke
that.
renders, yeah, yeah, Riverwood. So, no, I'm just, it was fabulous. But what I'm saying is, I had a lady design lunch. They're all ladies, but it's a little bit quiet. It's not as busy as last year, and whatever it is kind of it is what it is. But it's not a failure. Everyone's up and down at times. Some are more up than others, and some are more down than others. It is what it is, and the shame part of it is not worth thinking about. Um,
Right.
I was just talking to this person the other day that had a discovery call with me, and because I'm starting to coach on just that process. How do you get going? How do you do it while you're still
Great.
working? How do you even know you want to
Yes,
do this? Do it while you're
that's
working. Do
right.
a couple of jobs. Don't do You don't have to do everything, but test it out. Test the waters out. But
Hmm.
really, to me, it was like she said, "Oh, but you're so successful." I said, "Darling, I'm not." Let me put it this way: I'm successful um, in what I do because I'm choosing my success in the way that it works out for me. But you don't have to leave your job to do it. I said, I'm working. She said, You're working? And I said, Yes, I'm working. She said, Oh, that takes the pressure off. I thought I was a failure. I've got a design business, left my husband. I've got to go and get a job, look after my two boys. And I felt like a
Oh,
failure. I
mm,
said, don't. I said, because I'm not that person. I'm not the person you think I am. I am working and designing, and it is fine. It's absolutely fine. And
yeah,
that's what I'm encouraging people to do if they're not 100%, because you do have to think about kind of if you're going to leave your job, obviously we want some financial backing there as well, but you really have to think about year in year out now. Are you going to be happy to rely on this? And a lot of what you're going to need to get comfortable with is that feeling of uncertainty, which
hmm,
a lot of people say is just something as a solopreneur you need to get used to. You're going to
yeah,
feel uncertain a lot of the time, but it's got to become the new normal. Are you prepared
yeah.
for that? Some people aren't really prepared or want that as an ongoing thing.
Well, and I mean, you know what? I'm so glad that you said that because it is the truth. And I will tell you that I believe whether you're a solopreneur or you run a team of 5 or 55, I've said the only way as the owner of a business that you are never worrying about if the phone is going to ring again is if you're actually a sociopath and you don't think like it's like we're 40 years in business and literally every single time a month in sales is off at WindowWorks, but he's like, oh my God, what's going on? Is anybody door knocking? Are you on the phone? Or are you calling back your clients? Like the thing is, it is like, there's a ever vigilance that comes with being an entrepreneur. And I love the way you put it. If you don't want to live with that on your head, and not everybody is built for it. And the thing about it is the permission to not have to be built for it. And that's what your whole niche is now. And that's what you're doing with your podcast. So you want to be an interior designer. And that's what you're doing with your one-on-one coaching, that you're allowing the designer out there that is just saying, this feeling in my stomach, not knowing if it's going to ring or not wanting to be backed up. Like, there's so many people that are like, I don't want to work in the summer when my kids are off, right? Like, and so maybe you can't work it out that you don't work at all. But if you don't have your day job and your design job, you know what I'm saying? And so if you want to just put the design job off, at least you can move that around and you can just work a 9 to 5 in the summer instead of a 9 to 9 in the summer. Like, there's just, I don't know. I don't think, as a business owner, I think people imagine you get to a part where you're just like, oh, I just get up every day and do it on rinse and repeat. No, it doesn't happen. Right?
That's so true. And you do think I
It
felt
does.
like that too. I thought I'm going to get to this pinnacle, and it's just going to be
Mhm.
didn't
Yeah.
happen.
No, it
Doesn't
doesn't.
happen,
And the thing
like you
is,
said.
I think it's like when you talked about the E-Myth again, and what in Vin and Bill and myself were so lucky in WindowWorks. We're not the managing partners any longer, but we were so lucky for all those years because when you read that book, I read that book, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. And we had already been partners for 25, 30 years when I read that book. And I was just like, oh my God, this is us. Like, this is literally us. Like, the book is trying to help you identify that there are three aspects to running a successful business. And that if you are, like in the case of the example in the book, the baker, you're the technician. And if you take your technician skills and go out into the world and open a business and you don't recognize that you need the entrepreneur and the visionary to actually run the business and think just being the technician is the answer, which is really 85% of all interior designers. And that's why this podcast is popular, because it's not your talent that is going to be the indicator of your success. But like Vinny is that ops guy. He's that manager. He's like, where's the system? Let's put it in place and check the bank account 50 times a day. And I'm the visionary person. I'm the one like I've said it 1,000 times. I mean, now at 8 years, I repeat myself like a lunatic. We need a website. What's a website? We need a podcast. What's a podcast? Like I was always ahead of the thing. And of course, Billy is our technician. He is the skilled one that enabled Vin and I to sell the stuff. And we knew no matter what crazy cockamamie drape idea we came with, Billy was going to figure out how to make it happen. But Billy has said it 1,000 times. It doesn't, he knows. He said it. As good as I am at what I do, he goes, I wouldn't have lasted 5 years without Vinny and Lou around. There's not a chance, because he goes, I never would have sold for myself the way Lou does, and I never would have managed the business the way Vinny does. And so seeing yourself through coaches, right, Adam? And now you helping people see themselves in what really makes them happy, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that part about Vinny running the operations. I mean, that's the thing. If you're a solopreneur, you mightn't feel that you want to, or you have the ability to really get in and hire an operations person in your business, which is hiring staff and hiring people that can manage that side of things. So you mightn't, for me, I kind of thought, oh, I don't really want to be employing other people and having that burden. So, if I'd had an ops person like Vinny, maybe things would have been different. But it's just little old me, and I can only manage what I'm managing. And really, after all these years, I don't really want to expand past little old me and maybe my accountant and Jane, who does the 5%, gets the 5% of my 25%, so that she can do some day to day for me on the job. But I'm happy with that, and that's what that's really the angle of the podcast. So you want to be an interior designer, is it's not just about, well, you need a contract and you need this and that, but what if you are midlife and you're kind of, you don't want to be compromising your financial stability by leaving your job and going hard, or going home with it, for lack of a better expression. Well, there's other ways you
Right,
can do
right.
it. And that's what I'm teaching people, is just my process, because a lot of designers do say to me, solopreneur, how do you do it? You can't work full time and run design jobs. I said, well, you actually can. You need to do it turnkey, which is do a turnkey process. You need to do not be out with the client in the car getting coffees and picking 16 tiles on a Saturday and going back the week after. You don't need all that sort of process. That's kind of, that is when you'll sort of just be run ragged doing things and not being able to do anything else. Uh, you know, Working full time, I need to have a strict process, which is really, I come and meet you on a Saturday. I come back, I'll do some measuring and photography, and then that's it. Then I'm out, I'm designing. I'll get Jane to go and source some stuff for me. I've got a big picture. I might take a day off to do some stuff, and I might say, "Can you run out and this is the idea? Can you come up with some other stuff?" And then it's kind of, there's a process, a few weeks, and then we do an install. And it's kind of like, well, if we're doing construct kitchen, bath, whatever, then you normally turn up at 7 o'clock in the morning. I might go for an hour and then I go to work. Or Jane will come in and just say, look, following the plan here, everything's fine, or it's not. And then, as I was saying, Lou, she sort of gets paid a payment. There's a number of hours there, which pretty much, I know 25 hours or so I'm covered if I'm giving her 5% of my 25% implementation fee. So
Mm-hmm.
then I just come in for the install, which is when I do all the pretty stuff. And I only do an
Mm.
install. A lot of people just do that, where the client goes after the construction, and we just install the furniture and the beautiful window treatments and all that sort of thing in the
Right.
final couple of days. And really, it's about 5 full days I spent on the last project myself, with
Okay.
Jane involved. For me personally, it was a
Yeah.
commitment of 5 business days. And I got 4 weeks leave a year. So I've got 5 days out of the 4 weeks, and I'm happy to commit that to a project. It's actually, I think it's quite phenomenal that you can run it that way. And it's been a
Right.
process for me to learn how to do that successfully.
So what I'm hearing is that the keys to success in this are A, to have like, hello, like let's say the thousandth time on the show, having a good process, right? Because to your point, if you're going to go out there on a Saturday and spend the day with a client, we can't get nothing done at the end of the Saturday. So you showing up organized and understand the objectives for what needs to be accomplished that Saturday, whether it's picking all the fabrics or picking all the tiles or picking the fabrics and the tiles, whatever it is. So I love that. It's like, so this is one of the things that you are teaching your colleagues that like to do and want this side hustle lifestyle. And then the other thing is finding that trusted colleague. Because, I'm sure there's some designers saying, well, don't you worry about her stealing your client now? Like, so, but that comes from like, being a good human and recognizing who else is a good human, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the colleague that I'm talking about, she's really coming in to roll out the design that I've really put together. Actually, she does my drawings. I don't do any computer-aided design drawings, Lou. So she actually does design the kitchens and baths. So she's kind of part of the design process
Oh,
as well, which I didn't I failed to mention. But that side of things is kind of,
that's
you
nice
can
though.
have that bubbling away. You can design in the evenings or on the weekends. There is a little bit of hustle involved if you're going to keep a full-time job. It's kind of not like tickety boo, it all happens, and there's not time involved outside of your regular working hours. But
Tickety boo, and it
Saturdays is
all
that
happens.
you know, but Saturdays is a client meeting. I don't really take them out tile shopping and things like that. I sort of have a consultation, which I'll do on the weekend, Saturday, because the hubby's normally there, wife's there, the kids are there if there's kids. So we do all that. Everyone's happy, and then I'll only come back one more time, and that's to do measurements, talk to trades, and that's kind of another potentially full day. And then the design process is
Hmm.
really I hand a lot of the computer aided stuff over to my colleague Jane, she's a real designer, a lot like me, a decorator who designs. I call myself, but she's doing a lot of that computer aided design stuff. I'm saying this is the idea. I'll sketch it out how I see it. She'll actually make it work. So there's a part of that process I offshore as well, off not offshore, give to someone else. And I will take another day or whatever to go and I'll do the fabric stuff, and the pretty stuff. I'll go pick the fabrics for the drapes, for the sofas, whatever. That's another day. And then, it's kind of, I do a presentation, which I do again on a Saturday. And then after that, it's kind of like, let's sign the check and we'll start the process. And then I handle all of the ordering and all that stuff. But I do that sort of in the morning, in the evening, a little bit of time there. So there's plenty of time I'm
Hmm.
spending, but being Monday to Friday in the trenches during 9 to 5 hours, I don't really need that much time personally to be able to make it
Right.
work for
Right.
me. But it is
Yeah.
important, like you
I
were
love
saying,
that.
Lou, get into Facebook groups. That's how I found people. That's how I found everybody at
Ah,
Luann Live.
I
Um,
know, right?
and that's how you meet people, isn't it? I mean, if I was in the US, I probably would have met some of these lovely people before the conference. But like wherever you are, if you're in groups, meet them offline, have a coffee, have a look at what they're doing. A lot of people will be happy to, if they're having downtimes, to pick up a bit of your work to do some of the project lead stuff. But they're following a plan, so I'm not really worried about anybody sort of stealing the client because they're not really what they're doing is not so much the design process in terms of the aesthetic. That's me. They're kind of just there as an inclusion part of the team to the client. They don't
Hmm.
know at what
Hmm.
capacity my colleague is with me or without me, or whether she's employed full time or part time. They don't know. All they know is that she's a part of the team, and she is a
Right.
part of the team, but she's not creating the whole design concept from scratch. She's really running with my direction,
Right.
which
Right.
is the way it
Well,
can
and
work, with the trust, as you
yeah.
said, Lou.
Well, and the thing is, it is that is getting to know somebody, getting to know what is important to them and what their objectives are. So, you know, she's, as you said, she's like when her pipeline isn't full, she's happy to do this type of work for you. It supplements what she's doing, and it reminds me, it's different but it reminds me of the relationship that Works has with interior designers. So, yes, Window Works sells retail window treatments. So, when an interior designer here, whether it's Keisha Franklin, it's, Sandra Funk, whoever it is, Amanda Scotto, whoever it is bringing us in to do their window treatments. Technically, we're an outsider. Technically, we could have sold the window treatments to this client, just like technically Jane could have been the designer for this job. But when you are all colleagues and you are all working for the good of the same thing, and you understand that each person has a role, and you're all coming to it as good humans and smart business people, you get the goal. And the goal isn't, hey, can I take this job from under you? Like, when we work with a designer at Window Works, just like your friend Jane, she's capable of doing everything from A to Z, but she's executing your vision. And so for her money, she's showing up and just doing what you asked her to do, and she's happy to do it. That's the same at Window Works. We're not out there like, angsting over 16 fabric selections. Like, no, Keisha, what fabric, what style? Let's measure, let's execute, let's bring everything of us that we can that is the most valuable part to you, but we understand our role there. So I just make sure that people understand that it is possible to have a professional relationship with another trade that in a technical description, you could say they're competition. But there are good people that will rise above and understand that this is good for all of us. Just keep playing in the sandbox here.
Yeah.
So, as you've been doing your podcast, I know it's fairly new as we're recording, but as you've been doing your podcast and your one on one coaching, what are some of the other types of challenges that your colleagues have brought to you, or some ahas that you've shared with them in, embracing this as a legitimate business model for them, right?
Uh, I think we did have a bit of a lag there, Lou. So I'm just trying to catch up with what I thought you asked me. I
Okay.
think yeah, I think aha moments of, can you ask me the question again? I'm not really sure I
Okay.
heard it
That's
properly.
okay. So what I was trying to say, and I don't know, and the thing is, it's a tough question if you don't have an answer. So what I was saying was, between the podcast interviews that you've done and the one-on-one coaching you have, I wanted to give you an opportunity if there's been one or two specific challenges that we can highlight how you've got the challenges and you help solve it for people. So, and every time I ask a question like that, I'm thinking if they're not ready for it, they might not have an answer. So, is there something that you would want to say about that, or should I skip that question?
Yeah, no, I think if I can refer to somebody that I spoke to as recently as last week, and I mentioned her at the beginning of the show. She had a design business which was more staging, property staging, which she didn't even enjoy, but she sort of fell into this. And now she was at a crossroads, and she was leaving her husband and thinking that she had to shut down her business because she had to go and get a full-time job. And one of the things I said to her was, it was kind of a discovery call. We're not even coaching, but she just said, "Can I speak to you? I'm not sure what to do." She's on my email list, so I'm regularly asking people to connect with me if they'd like to have a chat. So she said,
Hmm.
"I feel like I've lost everything. I'm leaving my husband. I've got my two sons I've got to look after, and I cannot continue with this design business because, which was more staging. She was doing property staging, a bit of decorating. She said, because, I need to be available full time to do this. And so the website was down, and she was getting out of Instagram and doing all of these things that were really sort of cutting things right off, showing the world that she
Hmm.
was out, she was done.
Hmm.
And I think she also had a lot of self sort of sabotage, and that basically what had happened to her was going to mean she
It's a tough
could no longer do the
transition that you're
decorating.
describing that
I
she's in,
said, get a
right? Yeah.
full-time job, darling, and actually go and work. Go and work. Yeah. Go and work and then come back to it. And you might want to reconsider staging, because you will have to be Monday to Friday going to people's houses and setting up the home for sale for staging. But if you're decorating or designing, you can choose your own time, and I can help you if you want to talk about it. You want to be decorating and designing and not staging. So let me teach you how you can do that while you're still working. And I said, get the website up and running again. Nobody has to know anything about your personal life, all the dirty
Exactly.
details. Pull yourself out of the doldrums, and it is not a failure what's happening to you. Reinvigorate the website, and let's have a talk about how you can start to do what you really want to do, which is designing and not staging while you're working full time. And that's another discussion that we need to have moving forward. I think it's just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
awareness that there's different ways that you can work your design career. There's not one size
Yeah.
fits all.
Yeah. That's really the big takeaway right there. That's really the big takeaway. I mean, my thing is that I'm not in favor of doing it like a jobby, right? Like it's a hobby that you're supposed to be it's supposed to be a paid job, but you don't charge your worth, you don't structure it properly, you don't run it properly, and then when it's done, you're, disappointed and dejected because the client's not happy or the client is happy but you didn't make enough money. That you can't keep doing every day and expect a different result. But you can make a choice. Either I'm going to fulfill my creative outlet by not charging anybody and doing it for all my friends and family and having tons of fun spending their money making their houses pretty because that's fun for me, or I'm going to do it as a creative outlet and take on X amount of projects a year while I am a full time XYZ, whatever it is, teacher, doctor, lawyer, whatever it is, right? It's just, to me, it's about the choice. It's, I'm doing this the way I want to do it because this makes sense for me. It doesn't have to make sense for somebody else. I only bristle at it if we just aren't successful at it because we're not putting the boundaries on our own self and the expectations on our own self to do something right. But we don't have to put aspirational expectations on ourselves according to somebody else's how a business should look. I mean, I'm kind of in a circle, but does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, yeah, we're singing out of the same hymn book there, Lou, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
aspiration stuff, let it go and just do you. And I think that's right. And none of what I'm educating people about, which is just my experience, is about not charging and not making any money and doing things that don't incentivize you financially. I've got a goal of 2 projects per year and I'd like to earn $50,000 a project. So
Good for you.
you've got a company and you got 100 grand going through separate to
That's
the
it.
other full-time job. That's my goal, and it's not about trying to do people favors. All of that stuff kind of left me. All of the people that wanted to come for discounts, or can you do it for this, or can you change your process. Good thing about actually working for me uh, full time and not relying on the designers, I just say no, I can't help. Well, diplomatically, that's not the way I run
Right.
my
Like that won't
business,
work.
and I don't think that we're a good fit. Yeah. And it's
Mm-hmm.
okay if they
Mm-hmm.
say, no,
Mm-hmm.
thank you, Adam, we'll go elsewhere, or it's too expensive. But, over time and with, the referral process, which I'm learning more about from Stacey Brown Randall. But if referrals do come in over time, the longer you work, you do get return business from people
Yeah.
that actually appreciate you, and that's what I'm finding now, Lou. After sort of 14 years, is the people they're calling me and they already know me. They're not vetting me, and
Mm.
it's sort of
Mm-hmm.
working out to be kind of that way. It's a couple of projects a year, and most of the time it's full houses. It's not always construction, but a lot of decorating in there, and there's a lot of profit you can make from that.
Yes.
Even engaging another designer to help you, there's still, you can adjust your fees as well to make sure that that works out for you, and also for the person who's contracted to you to get some of that stuff done, so you can still earn that salary if you want it. It's not for everybody, Lou. I know that, but it's for a
Right.
few people out there, and I'm one of those few people.
I love it. I love it, Adam. And I love that you are leaning into it a way that you're now being the voice for this section of the industry, this like subset that it's okay. Like it is not a failure. It is not less than. It is perfectly your option, your right to do it, right? And I just love it. And I love that you did it one way, you left, you thought you wanted another way, and you had the courage to go back and just say, you know what, this other thing worked better for me this way. That's awesome, because a lot of us spend time continuing to do the thing that we don't like to do anymore because of, what will someone think? Oh, will they think I'm a failure if I go back to a corporate job? Will they think of I'm a failure if I can't, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you just like, with for you, like you said it, I didn't like to go to sleep at night with that darn feeling in my stomach of, when is the next time the phone is going to ring? For you, it's, like, I love the clarity. You want 2 jobs a year. You want to make, 50K on each job and call it a day. Like, yeah, right? That's awesome. You know? So good for you. So the
Lou, if I
podcast
could,
is
yeah,
called, go ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
I actually want to tell everybody a dirty little secret is that when you spoke to me in 2017, I was working in corporate and I was doing design on the side. And all those years ago, I said to you, you said, Adam, I think it's worth telling you a unique story. When I approached you back then, I didn't want to tell that story. My dirty little secret is you said, Adam, there's nothing to be
Ah.
ashamed about telling people the truth about how you run your business. And all these years later, I don't know if you remember, Lou, all these years later, I am 100% comfortable in that truth. And I tell my clients, I say, I don't do this. Jane's here to help out when she can. This is not all I do, and this is the reason. But I really love being here for your project, and it's just made the highlight of my year. It's that type of thing, and everybody loves transparency. So there's absolutely that's one thing I learned from you in 2017 is be happy, be transparent, be honest, and there's nothing shameful about it. It's actually it's a very attractive thing to be honest and transparent.
I didn't remember it when we sat down to talk today. When you say it, A, I'm deja vuing. And of course, I'm just glad to know, because this is exactly how I feel. It's like, who you are is who you are. That's okay. You don't need permission from anybody, right? It's like, do you? And of course, from the standpoint of the podcast, I would have said that to you in person for sure. But from the standpoint of the podcast, I'm not going to sit here and pretend something, because that's like, now I'm now breaking my relationship with my listener, which you are and were one of. And I was like, Adam, no, 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 this is fine. Like, because there's always somebody else that is thinking that too. And I knew you needed to be, it's okay for you to be the voice for that person, right? And so I just love that that happened. I didn't remember it clearly, but it doesn't surprise me, and I'm glad and I'm thankful that you remembered it and shared it with us. With
And I
us.
got emails from listeners of the podcast telling me, "Oh, I love
I'm
that.
sure you did.
I love that, Adam.
Yeah.
I'm happy in my full time job too." And I thought, well, that's a community of people that, why lie to people and sort of make out that there's all this going on when it isn't. And I really
No.
relaxed into that. I relaxed into that only recently, actually. But I thought it was
Mm.
interesting to bring that back because
Yeah.
it's quite, yeah, it's interesting to see how the tide turns.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you have leaned into it now. I really am, because it's like it's being able to breathe now. It's like in in your skin on living that way. And the thing about it is that I'm just like such a core value of honesty for me. And it's like, I don't care how hard the truth is. I would rather face the hard truth than look at somebody and them say to me, "You lied to me about that?" Like, I will do anything not to be in that spot. And it's like, no, no, that's like, it's such a breach of trust and respect. So, and it's just so deep in me, you know what I'm saying? So, but I'm so glad that you have that piece now. And now you're spreading it and helping other designers understand and lean into it as well. So, wait, good on you, Adam. Good on you.
Thanks, Lou. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
So, my friend, we will link your podcast in the show notes. And you have, I think, a little quiz that you have that we're going to link in the show notes as well. Am I remembering that properly? Yeah. So, you want to be an
Yeah, Lou,
interior
I do.
designer? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So this is it's Adam Scougall.com/quiz. Um, this is really for people that are starting out, and are you flailing a little bit and you need some advice on the basics? You know, it's got all sorts of things in there. It's a report that you feel it's about 15 questions only. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes, but it just gives you an idea of where your strengths and
Mm-hmm.
opportunities are. And it's really through my experience, and you know, it's all of those lovely things, the basics that we need to get right. And it's really for those newbie designers out there that are kind of new, or you've been around for a while and things are kind of, yeah, not where they should be. So it's all information
Mm-hmm.
there that has come from my experience. So yeah, if you want to take the quiz, go adamscougall.com/quiz.
Love it, love it, love it. Yeah, I mean, where else does everything
Thank
come
you.
from but from our experience, right?
That's it.
So, w well, thank you, my friend, for being here. It was so fun catching up with you today, and I just appreciate that we have become friends through this show and that it's been going on for so long, and of course, it will continue to grow. So thank you for being here, Adam.
Thank you so much, Luann. It was such a pleasure.